Hi everyone, welcome to this launch event of the ULS Handbook. Actually, it's a great moment for us, the core team of the ULS project. And that's the end of quite a long and interesting journey through a couple of years to develop and to launch this first final version of the ULS Handbook. Welcome, and in this session will be a different person in the first part of this event to share some information about the whole process, the rationale of this project and the handbook. I'm here with George Fenton. George is the thematic expert for the ULS project, and I'm the coordinator of the project. We'll also talk with Rebecca from Oxfam Novib. Rebecca was not sure. Yeah, Rebecca will share her experience as member of the technical advisory group of the ULS project, a key group for the development of the different version we had until this final version we are launching today. So let's start. First off, just to mention that we are recording this session, so be aware that if you want to connect your camera, let's do it. But just to be aware that we'll record this. We are recording this session, and we'll share the final video in our YouTube channel. So many other colleagues can have a look later, or if you want to have a second look to this presentation, the presentation will be in our YouTube channel. So let's start. Welcome again to all of you, and just to mention that this ULS project was started almost 2 years ago in August 2019. It is a project led by the Inspire Consortium. This is an alliance of different humanitarian think tanks in Europe, IECAH here in Spain, Groupe URD in France, GPPI in Germany, and ODI in the UK. And we developed this project thanks to with the support of the European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations of the European Union, DG ECHO. And I would like to welcome Mark Bennun from DG ECHO.
Hello, hi.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Camille. Thank you. So as Camille said, I'm Mark Bennun from DG ECHO in the European Commission. I can't stay for the full presentation today, but I just wanted to join to say a few words about DG ECHO's decision to fund this project and why we think it's important to develop this universal logistics standard. So firstly, to say thank you to Camille and the rest of the team in IECAH and in the Inspire Consortium as well for their work developing this standard over the last couple of years. DG ECHO decided to fund this project based on a recommendation in an evaluation by Landell Mills of the humanitarian aid of logistics within humanitarian aid in DG ECHO and the sector more widely. This evaluation identified that there wasn't one universal standard for humanitarian logistics. So our objective, based on that recommendation, was to fund a project that would produce a document that could be used by everyone working in the humanitarian sector to support, to help them with logistics. So the standard that's been produced, we hope that it can be used by everyone. So whether people are working in headquarters in the field, whether they're working for a humanitarian partner or an organization supporting partners to implement their projects. And what we hope the standard will do is help organizations to understand the key steps needed when they're considering logistics in the design and implementation of their projects. But also as well, we hope that it will raise the profile, if you like, of logistics within the humanitarian sector, and help people at all levels in different organizations appreciate the key role of logistics and the need to consider it throughout the design and implementation of a project. What we're not looking to do is to produce obligatory standards. This is, what we want is to produce, in a sense, guidelines in the sense of some of the other standards that are in the Sphere suite of standards. I'll just mention as well that this standard has a clear link to the logistics policy that DG ECHO will be developing over the rest of this year. We have decided to develop a humanitarian logistics policy, and one of the overarching objectives of this policy is to raise awareness of the importance of logistics in the humanitarian sector, and also to support capacity building. So we hope that this standard will be able to play a part in that. So I think that's all from us, and just to reiterate again how grateful we are to IECAH and to the Inspire Consortium, both for the development of this standard and as well for the wide consultation that you conducted as well. I think a lot of people across the sector globally have contributed to this work. So thank you very much for that. And I think that's all from me, and I'll hand back to you. Thank you. Thanks, Camille.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks to all colleagues at DG ECHO. Actually, it's a great privilege to work with a key actor, key player in the global humanitarian response as DG ECHO for this project. And just to highlight again, this is, as you mentioned, these standards are not are voluntary standards, and they are also universal. So it's maybe different approach than many other technical standards. So and we'll talk a bit more about that. So let's start with the presentation. We'll have two main moments during this event. First, we would like to share with you maybe to recap the main features of the handbook, of the standards, to share with you some ideas for the future, some insights from the pilot experiences we had with different organizations. And after that, we'll have a moment to discuss with you. So please, well, at any moment, you can use the chat to send some comments or questions, and we'll go through these questions and comments at the end after this first moment of the presentation. So just to recap, this is the launch event in English. We just had before the first launch event in French with other colleagues. We'll have this afternoon, if you know some colleagues that could be interested in this initiative, you can share this detail so they can join this afternoon European African time in Spanish. And also we'll have a short presentation as part of the HNPW and the log cluster events within the HNPW sessions tomorrow, talking more widely about the rationale of these standards and previous studies regarding the need for the development of standards. So this is actually our starting point, just to recap the rationale of these standards. Over to you, George.
Yeah, thanks, Camille, and thanks, Mark. So the need for universal standards, and Mark mentioned some of the background there that ECHO was involved with, and I think what was found was that there are a number of technical logistics standards in the aid sector, but many are sort of very organization centered. and not widely recognized. And for smaller organizations and non-logistics staff, it's a challenge to translate high-level principles, understand them. There isn't really a common language and terminology for humanitarian logistics across different sectors. So we're hoping that the universal standards will help with that. So what we're wanting to do is use the standards or have the standards used for capacity building, raising awareness, as Mark mentioned, quality and accountability. And as we're saying, the standards are very universal and so cross-cutting, and we've deliberately in the various consultation rounds that we have had, deliberately tried to involve a broad range of actors from around the world at many different levels, from field level logisticians to senior managers. Next slide.
Great. So just a few words about the whole process, this project. As I mentioned, we started in 2019, so this was before the whole COVID thing, so it sounds like centuries ago. So we started this project in August 2019 with these ideas in mind, and we discussed with DG ECHO. And we started to discuss with more and more actors in the humanitarian response field, the logistics field, and also the quality and accountability initiatives in the humanitarian sector to understand and to discuss the possible format, scope of these standards. At the end of this desk review and process, and with more and more interviews, we published an inception report to set the basis to start the drafting actually of the standards. To do so, we worked with a group of experts in different countries, different organizations, called the Technical Advisory Group, the TAG. I can see some colleagues from the TAG today with us. And we worked with the TAG at the end of 2019. We started to work to develop the first draft of the handbook. We published this handbook in May 2020, and then we started some open consultations. So this was a first draft with the different technical chapters, and we start to discuss more and more with actors all around the world in different languages. We had a total of 17 sessions in French, Spanish, and English, and again in the different regions all around the world. Again with humanitarian practitioners, logisticians, non-logisticians also, and to see how to capture as much as possible the best practices, and how to best explain these best practices all along the different chapters. Thanks to that, we were able to review the first draft to improve this draft. We had different versions of the document, well, more and more improvements. And we published last year, the pilot version of the ULS. So this was for us a good enough version to be shared, to be used really for real at field level in organizations, and at headquarter level also. And this was actually the last phase of the project. We had this pilot experiences with different organizations. And actually the pilot was a test to see in different contexts, different organizations, whether the standards are useful or not. And we'll share with you some insights from this pilot. And here we are today, just there for the launch of the V1, the final version of the handbook. So at the end of this quite a long and really interesting journey, it's a great achievement, and we are really happy to share this with you. Over to you, George, to talk more about the scope and the format of the handbook.
Yes, so the format is the handbook is in basically 6 chapters, as is listed here: asset management, distribution, fleet management, warehousing, procurement, and transport. But we realized that what was really important across all of these different elements of humanitarian logistics, that there are some cross-cutting themes that hadn't really previously been considered, apart perhaps from cash and market-based assistance. What we have introduced through the ULS development is a recognition of the importance of protection, safeguarding, environmental sustainability, greening logistics, and gender diversity and inclusion. There needs to be more work around all of these areas in the future, but we feel that we've made a good start with this process to ensure that we pay more attention to these cross-cutting themes and influence the way that the humanitarian logistics sector evolves, and logistics more broadly in aid assistance. The format of the standards is essentially the same as the format used by Sphere, whereby you have a high-level standard or principle, followed by a set of key actions. And broadly, the suggestion is that those actions can be followed in sequence, but not necessarily. It's not intended to be a sort of checklist, but adapted to the relevant context. And then under the key actions are some suggested indicators, and again, those need to be adapted to the context. Not all of them have to be followed, but they're sort of intended as a guide. And then broadly, there are a set of guidance notes underneath, which talk about more specific elements or other things to be considered. Back to you, Camille.
Thanks, George. So to complete this explanation of the format of the standards, we just published today a second video. In the previous video, we published an animation to explain why the ULS, and in this second animation video, we explain how to use actually the handbook, the different use case of the handbook, and also again this format and the logic of using this format. So let's have a look to this animation video. Let's try. And let's go.
The Universal Logistics Standards are based on best practices in humanitarian response. They can be used by anyone involved in logistics. Local communities, NGOs, and authorities may take special advantage of these standards to help them manage the logistical aspects of their humanitarian response. The Universal Logistics Standards can be used as a reference for planning, managing, or implementing humanitarian projects. They also enhance collaboration and communication by providing a common language. Standards can support better understanding of the logistics needs, empowerment of the local communities, as well as advocacy with donors and local authorities. Lastly, they are useful to develop policies or establish a baseline for a specific field operation. The Universal Logistics Standards synthesize key areas of logistics, including procurement, transport, warehouse and storage, distribution, asset management, and fleet management. Within these chapters, important cross-cutting issues are addressed: protection, safeguarding, environmental impact, gender diversity and inclusion, cash-based assistance. The handbook's content and layout are designed to complement existing universal humanitarian standards, such as the foundational chapters of the Sphere Handbook. Each chapter is structured under minimum standards, which are general and qualitative in nature and state the minimum to be achieved in any crisis. Each standard provides key actions, outlining practical steps towards achieving them. They also include key indicators to help measure whether the standard has been achieved. Remember that key actions are not a checklist, and indicators might be adapted to both the context and phase of the response. Standards finally include guidance notes that provide additional information to help contextualize and deepen specific examples of best practices. The ULS Handbook is now available in its final version in different languages. Visit our website for more information.
Okay, back to the presentation. So again, this is a short animation, just to highlight, to recap regarding this format, how to use the handbook and the different actors that could take advantage of using the handbook. Before we talk a bit more about the different pilot experiences, I would like to give the floor to Rebecca. Rebecca works at Oxfam Novib, Oxfam Netherlands, and Rebecca is a part of this important group for the development of the ULS, the Technical Advisory Group. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello. And Oxfam was also part of the consortium of organisations that developed the PARCEL standards. PARCEL stands for Partner Capacity Enhancement in Logistics, and that really targeted local and national actors. The ULS builds on this work, and actually all of the standards are integrated. But the ULS is more detailed, and it tackles these new cross-cutting issues that George mentioned, such as the environment, safeguarding and cash. And that's what's really innovative for us. And the aims are a bit different, but they still really work together. Oxfam, as you'll all know, is a humanitarian organisation. We do long-term development work. We're also a campaigning and activist organisation. And we work with thousands of different local partner organisations each year. So we have very different activities, very different operations and different contexts where we work. And this is where the ULS becomes really useful for Oxfam because it's flexible. It's designed to work in all of these different operational contexts. In Oxfam, actually, my team have already started using the ULS as a reference point when producing guidance and training. It's really useful. Let's just check what the ULS says. What's the indicators there? What are we doing? So I think that it will continue to look towards ULS when looking to improve our operations, our ways of working, how we're assessing what we're doing, and it will be invaluable working with local organizations. It's one standard, one reference, and it's one way of talking about supply and logistics. I also hope that the awareness of the universal logistics standards across Oxfam teams will get to the same level as the Sphere humanitarian standards, as these standards are written in such an accessible way that we can improve the understanding of supply and logistics concerns beyond logistics and improve our functions profile, and that can only be beneficial to our responses. And just a few thoughts just on the process. I've just been really in awe of the efforts taken by
Rebecca? That's a pity. It seems we have a problem with the connection, but let's see if we can connect maybe a bit later. But thanks in any case to Rebecca, and thanks to all the colleagues part of the Technical Advisory Group. Actually, as I said, it was really the key group, the key element for the development of the different version of the ULS until today, the launch of the final version. So thanks again, Rebecca, and maybe we'll be able to talk a bit later. And I would like to share some insights from the different pilot experiences we had in the last month. at the end of this long journey we had a look to at the beginning of this presentation, we had this pilot phase. Actually, the pilot was the test to see whether the ULS handbook works or not, how to improve the format or the contents to make this a useful tool for its intended purpose. So we worked with 5 different organizations, actually with doing different things, different pilots. We worked with the Finnish Red Cross, actually specifically regarding the procurement chapter, the first chapter, technical chapter, thematic chapter of the ULS handbook, because the Finnish Red Cross was in the process of updating their policy regarding procurement. So they used the ULS as a reference to see how to improve, update their procurement policy. We also worked with the Canadian Red Cross. Canadian Red Cross used actually the ULS to see in the context of the design of project at the really inception moment of the design of a program in Central America. So they used the ULS to see whether it was useful to design this project and take into account the best practices in the logistics sector. We worked also with CLT Central Asia, CLT Kazakhstan. CLT is a global network for the capacity development in transport and logistics. And we worked with CLT Kazakhstan, sharing the information about the ULS with different actors in the region, so they can access knowledge about the best practices in the different chapters of the ULS. We worked also with TECHO. TECHO is an NGO that works in different countries, in pretty much all the countries in Latin America. They are based in Chile, in Santiago de Chile, and it is an organization that work a lot with volunteers. So it was interesting with them to see whether ULS can be of interest, can be useful in an organization where they are not a logistics specialist. There is no logistics department. So they use the ULS as a key tool to access important knowledge, logistic knowledge and best practices. And last but not least, we worked with Bioport. Bioport is an NGO based in France, and they are providing support for the transport to other NGOs. And Bioport use the ULS handbook as a reference to do a sort of self-assessment using specifically the transport chapter, to see whether their practices were fully aligned or not with the different standards. So it was also a quite interesting experience. From these 5 pilot experiences, we get many insights. We don't want today to share the list of all the comments we had. We had many specific comments to fine-tune the different chapters, and actually we are pretty much done with all these final fine-tuning of the content of the handbook. And globally, we had quite positive answers, positive feedback from these 5 organizations about the clarity of the structure, the relevance of the tool. Some of them highlighted that it's a good tool to include, as we try to do, including all those cross-cutting issues. So they confirm that it's a good tool to take into considerations important matters such as the environmental impact, and other cross-cutting issues we included. They also identified that for small organizations or non-logisticians specialists, this tool can be of special interest. And some of them also highlighted that the glossary are quite useful for logistics specialist to understand the key concept and to implement actually the standards. And this is the last thing we would like to share with you before we can have a debate, to have some questions and comments. And this is about the future of the handbook, of the ULS project. So right now you can have access in our website, ulstandards.org. You can have access to the English final version of the handbook. Soon you may see, maybe today and tomorrow, some last modifications, because we are doing some last adjustments, more about the format than the content. But and soon we'll have access to other languages. We'll have in a couple of weeks the version, these same documents, in Spanish and in Russian, because of the different pilot experiences we had. And we hope in the near future, this is in the coming month, we hope to have more languages. We think that French and Arabic would be definitely good languages, interesting languages to have for the ULS in the near future. Also regarding the training, we identified these three priorities, discussing with different actors and based on the pilot experiences. During the pilot, we developed a series of video tutorials. You can have a look to these 7 video tutorials in our YouTube channel, ULS Standards YouTube channel. And we would like to develop in the future, this is something many actors asked for, more training resources, PowerPoint presentations, online trainings, self-trainings, different materials to cover different training needs. And also, we mentioned during the pilot phase, we had a specific example of the self-assessment developed using the ULS handbook. So we'd like to develop in the near future some associated tools to the handbook. The handbook is the key resource, but in addition to this key resource, the handbook, we'd like to develop, as many actors asked also, some associated tools such as a self-assessment tool in Excel or something like that, so organizations can do this self-assessment and see whether they are aligned with the different standards, different chapters. So this is what we have now, what we'll have in the near future, and we would like to hear from you. If you have any comments, questions, please, you can raise your hand, or you can send a message, comments, questions, thanks to the chat. And hi, Rebecca, welcome back. Maybe you want to add something else, sorry.
Hi, everybody. It's a bit stormy here. I got cut off by a power cut. And the in awe of was actually in awe of the project team and also Camille, of course, just because it's been such a diverse and consultative, collaborative process. It's been really quite amazing being part of the technical advisory group, working closely with all these different organizations to drill down to the minimum standards and also ensure that the standards are grounded in the actual realities of different operating contexts and accessible to everybody. And it's been really fascinating discussions and arguments and agreements, and it's been fantastic. And the ULS has also triggered some innovative discussions and initiatives on the back of this, as George mentioned, especially embedding gender and diversity concerns into our operations, because it's actually not ever been done before. And I'm really looking forward to the development of these tools, especially the assessment tool and training, which I'm sure we'll use in Oxfam. And I think the next step for everybody on this call and beyond is to really promote these standards in our organizations and with the organizations we work with.
Great, thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I'd just like to add, Camille, that it's been great to work with the technical advisory group members like Rebecca, because without their input, we wouldn't be where we are now. And I think we've got a very good product as a result of all of the inputs that we've had and many different discussions and meetings. So thanks from me to the TAG.
That's true, and thanks to everyone, also people involved in the different consultations we had. I can see we have some colleagues that participated to one or different sessions when we had this series of 17 sessions in different languages, different regions. So I mean, it was key to develop something comprehensive, representative, with variety of experiences from different regions, different contexts. So I'm have a look to the question in the chat. Again, if you want to comment something, you can raise your hand or use the chat. Regarding hard copies, there's no in this for this first launch of the final version V1. There's no hard copy included so far. So we'll have to see in the near future. We identified these 3 priorities. Again, translate this important resource handbook to other languages than Spanish and Russian. We will have soon. So this is French and Arabic and maybe more languages. The training and the associated tools such as the self-assessment tool. Although I didn't mention that, we discussed that in the previous launch event in French. Because we developed these standards really in line with the SPHERE standards and all this family of standards, group of humanitarian standards, using the same approach, the same format. We are discussing with this group how to be officially part of the HSP, the Humanitarian Standards Partnership, this family of humanitarian standards. And maybe in the future, the access to ideally, if we can confirm, we are pretty confident, but this is not confirmed today. But we would see how to share the handbook also within the HSP, and the HSP has, for instance, an app for devices to consult the different standards. So we should think about the best channels to share the standards in the future. Regarding downloadable printable version, today we have this online version, and early next week we'll have the PDF version, because we are fine-tuning the last more formal elements in the handbook. It's not possible to publish the PDF today, but we'll have the PDF printable downloadable file by next week. Just reading the comments. Good comments. Might not be great to have a hard copy when we are looking at environmental impact. So that's true. So we'll discuss this for sure. And again, any comments, question?
So there's another issue around interest to have access to a hard copy. I think the PDF version could be downloaded, right, Camille?
Yes, that's yeah. Next week we'll have the PDF, and the PDF will be downloadable and printable, because we want to reduce the environmental impact, so we don't want everyone to print the handbook. But if you need to, you'll be in position to print, or maybe just some specific pages of the handbook. And again, we will see in the future other channels like an app or other channels to share, so people can use in different manner the handbook. Any more thoughts? Any more question? Again, we would like to thank everyone, all the different organizations involved, all the different colleagues involved in the different phases of this this project. It's almost 2 years, so it's quite long with the COVID factor in the middle of the project. So we are really grateful with all of you for your participation. And we are really happy to share today in this final version. This is the end of a quite long and interesting journey, but it's also the beginning of, for sure, longer and more interesting journey with the ULS in the future. As colleagues mentioned, the real objective is to share this this handbook, and we'll see in the future also how to review it and improve it and include more and more things there. But the key priorities will be to share it in different languages, training, and different uses such as the self-assessment. So I'm not sure with the last comments about the COVID, but definitely regarding the project, it was a challenge. Well, I guess it was a challenge for everyone everywhere. But actually, we are maybe lucky because of COVID, we had the opportunity to have more and more online sessions during the consultations. We are expected to have a couple or 3 workshops in different countries, but at the end, because of COVID, we had more and more online events, and we covered more and more different contexts with more and more colleagues, almost 200 practitioners all around the world. So that's a positive impact of the COVID crisis for the project. But yeah, definitely COVID is continue to be a challenge. We think that the handbook can be of interest for practitioners in the context of COVID to understand, as we can see in the COVID response, the logistic is really key, and the handbook can be useful in this context to help different actors to do some procurement, transport, the different chapters we have.
Yeah, just a question about the question on how to handle during lockdown, in the COVID lockdown. Chatragada.
Yeah, I was not sure about the.
Just explain that a little bit more. What were you? Did Camille answer your question? You want to unmute yourself and explain? Or not? Okay.
Okay. Great.
Hi,
Hi.
Camille.
Hi.
This is Manoj.
Hi,
From-
Manoj.
Hi, I would like to share my thoughts about this this handbook, and all, since I was engaged in the couple of sessions, sharing session and discussion session. So I feel really good to know that, like, finally we have some results, some output in our hand, and I hope I look forward to use it, since I'm engaged in providing training and capacity building in logistics in my country for different humanitarian agencies and local community CBOs, community-based organization, and government stakeholder. So I hope I can use this booklet. I can advocate, like, organizations should use this handbook as standard, so that if they found it useful, and I hope they will use it, and I will use my forum, whatever my training forum, to publish, to make it more public, to make it to more audiences. And I would like to suggest to have a kind of review sessions in some time intervals, like quarterly or half yearly or something like that, or a common platform where I can send my feedback on particular session whenever I receive from my audience or my target people. Then it will be really, I mean, useful to further improve it in the coming days in future. Yeah, once again, thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, Camille, and thank you very much to all. I see here Thomas is there. So thank you, everybody, for this wonderful work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj. I just shared via the chat. Oh, sorry. I have to send it again. Didn't work. But the email of the project. If you want to share any, to provide any feedback regarding the handbook, this is the email, and we'll be maybe in touch via also the social networks and other channels. But thanks so much, Manoj. But this is the final version, so we really want people to, in different contexts, regions, organizations, to use this tool. And obviously, if you can provide some feedback, it will be really appreciated. It will be really useful for the next steps. As we said, now we are just at the end of this project. We identified some priorities for the near future, and we hope to be in touch with all of you and more users all over the world to make sure that this will last. For sure, it will last for a long time, and we'll have the opportunity to provide additional resources and also improve the standards in the future. So thanks again, and that's actually a great moment to launch this final version after more and more phases and challenges. So thanks again to all of you. Thanks to all the team, George, Rebecca, all the colleagues. And this is not the end. I mean, this is the end of this first interesting journey, and we'll have for sure quite a longer interesting journey starting next week. Thanks.